First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting them plan a birth in my tub? I, 28 male, own my own place and suffer extreme pain in my back and my right leg. I bought and had installed essentially jacuzzi in my master bedroom as a tool to help relax and use it regularly. My brother and his wife were pregnant and asked if they could use it because they wanted to do a water birth. No idea if that's what it's called, but they have no bathtub in their place and asked to use my jacuzzi, saying they'll clean it out. To be honest, I know it's the miracle of life, but it makes me so uncomfortable to think of birth in my relaxation tub. I told them absolutely not, and they were furious, saying that it's selfish to deny her this. She went into labor yesterday, and they called to ask if they could come over and use it, and I told them again, no, and turned my ringer off. She gave birth at the hospital and demanded I need to pay half the bill that she'll get, but I just told them to screw off. They're now both calling me the a-hole, and so are our parents who live over the other end of the country. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top judgment. Did you make half the baby? No? Then there's no reason for you to pay half the bill. Some people. Not the a-hole. Nobody's entitled to your things, not even when pregnant or giving birth. I wish I could upvote this more than once. And the jets are impossible to clean. I have given birth. It's messy. And good for you for not allowing them to use your tub with jets. Ew. It really kills the relaxation vibe when blood, feces, amniotic fluid, and assorted after-birth particles congeal in your pipes. Not the a-hole. The miracle of life is a miracle, but it's also not at all sanitary. I can't even imagine trying to get all of the pipes clean after something like that. It sounds like you very clearly told them no, and they didn't listen, didn't make other plans. That's on them, not you. You were not responsible for any bills. How entitled. I can't even imagine trying to get all of the pipes clean after something like that. I had the same thought. Even with just water, if you don't blow the air tubes out, it's mold city. Not the a-hole. You do not want a birth going on in your jacuzzi tub. I had a home water birth, and trust me, they get messy. A jacuzzi tub isn't even suitable for a birth. They're too hot for one, and not deep enough for another. Tell them to buy or rent a birthing pool like the rest of us. Exactly. A jacuzzi is the wrong sort of tub. Could have set sister-in-law and the baby up for a nasty infection. What is fine if you have intact skin is not when everything is open up in a birthing situation. Sister-in-law is straight up wrong. And this doesn't even get into OP not wanting to contaminate her tub with that much blood and bodily fluids. Not the a-hole, and wow. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not getting over my sister-in-law calling child services? There's a lot of details I could go into, but I'll try to keep it brief. I, 34 female, cut my sister-in-law, 34 female, out of my life and my kid's life after she called Child Protective Services on me and my husband, 35 male. She made certain accusations against my husband and I, and told them that my house was gross. None of it was true, and DCFS went on their merry way after briefly investigating us. She admitted calling. She didn't even apologize, and said she'd made the right call. I told her she should have at least asked us why our baby was so small, for example, but she said we would have just lied to her because we had previously lied about my oldest child being conceived before we were married. I told her I never wanted to talk to her again, and that she was never going to see my kids again. My husband's family all told her she made a bad call to not at least ask us, or even them if she thought we'd lie about the things she claims she noticed. Sister-in-law doubled down, and the whole family wrote it off as her just needing to cause a drama, unfortunately at our expense. I haven't talked to her since. She asked me to coffee a few times over the years, and I said no. My husband mostly stayed no contact with her as well, but did get lunch with her once, during which she defended herself and told him how dramatic and ridiculous I was being. Husband, kids, and I moved across the country, and it hasn't really come up in like 6 years. Being accused of such things by a family member gave me some lasting anxiety, and I panic if someone comes over and the house is messy or the kids have a cut or bruise. But I don't, like, sit and stew about how awful my sister-in-law is or anything. It's been several years now. The baby in the store is now 10, and my mother-in-law just moved in with us. She video chats with my sister-in-law, and I requested that she keep the video chats to her own bedroom, and not to carry her phone around the house, give sister-in-law our address, or pull my children into the calls to say hello. My husband doesn't feel like this is necessary, but understands the boundary I've drawn here and backs me up. Mother-in-law keeps pulling my kids in to say hello to their cousin, my sister-in-law's child, despite being asked not to. Mother-in-law says I'm being ridiculous, holding on to this grudge for so long, and that I really need to let it go and let my sister-in-law back into my husband's life. I've never told my husband he can't talk to his own sister. I will not talk to her, and I don't want her near the kids, but he can do whatever he wants. She doesn't ask to video chat with him, so I don't know why my mother-in-law tried to frame it that way. I think it's possible I'm the a-hole for not breaking my zero contact resolution, just because it's been so long. But she hasn't changed personality-wise at all, and I don't think it's unlikely she'd pull that stuff again, just for the drama factor. Mother-in-law insists she's changed, and I need to give her another chance. Am I the a-hole for not getting over it? Edit. Because this has come up a lot. I do not mind if my children get to know their cousin. The problem is that the video chat is never just the kids. My sister-in-law is always there, facilitating the interaction because her kid is 5, and just as likely to hang up or drop the phone in the toilet as she is likely to chat. When the kiddo gets bored after a minute or two, she hands the phone to my sister-in-law, who then chats with my kids. That's the part I'm not okay with. They can talk to their cousin, but my sister-in-law ruins it every time, and therefore they can't really talk to their cousin. If I didn't feel like video chatting with her cousin put our family in legitimate danger, I would not object. I have no desire to punish a 5-year-old because her mother is Satan's bride. Not the a-hole. Ask mother-in-law if she would like the zero contact expanded to include her as well. She can't be allowed to keep pushing without consequences. I'm honestly so confused here though. Why did a sister call CPS? Is it a thing to call CPS when the child is small? What was the actual truth about the baby? Was it some health issues? I feel like there are so many gaps in the story. It sounds so vague. It's like Opie talked about everything around the plot, except the plot itself. I'm not trying to be nosy here, but could someone explain it to me? Am I missing out on something? Not an a-hole. The way I see it is mother-in-law has 2 options. 1, respect your boundaries. 2, move out. Mother-in-law can move in with sister-in-law, not the a-hole. She should have at least asked us why our baby was so small. What? Why should CPS get involved when a child is small? Anyway, you have a reasonable line since what sister-in-law pulled could have gotten your family in a lot of trouble. She clearly likes to cause drama, and you and your husband made a joint decision to cut her out. It doesn't really matter what your mother-in-law thinks of your boundary, but my husband doesn't feel like this is necessary. Have a talk with your husband about this, why he wants to move the line he and you set together. After clearing things with him, present a united front to your mother-in-law and tell her of your decision and ask her to respect it. If she doesn't and keeps violating your boundaries, then kick her out. She accused us of starving the baby, among other horrible accusations. The baby was 4 months old and really was worrying small. We were at the pediatrician 2 to 3 times a week. We were syringe feeding her, having breast milk shipped to us from another state. It was a nightmare, and having DCFS up our butts when I was trying to keep my baby from being hospitalized because she refused to take a bottle was not what I needed. But yes, everyone was concerned about the baby, and a call to DCFS would have been legit if we weren't doing anything about her smallness. Had she asked us about the welfare of the baby, we could have explained, but she reported us instead. My husband told me that he doesn't think it's necessary to set this boundary with his mother's video chats. He always respected my request that his sister not be allowed around the kids, but I don't think he ever liked it. He wants his sister not to be a jerk, but also recognizes the reality. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for evicting my late son's girlfriend from my house? My late son, 43 male, and I were estranged for a very long time, probably around the time he was 25, greatly in part because of his on-again, off-again drinking problems. Around 2 years ago, we reconnected. Alcoholism had ravaged his life and his body, and he had been out of work for close to 8 years. His girlfriend, 45 female, and him had 3 daughters, 10, 8, 3, that he never told me about. But the store she was a manager at closed, so she was now out of work too. They were going to get married, but he couldn't afford a ring. They were soon evicted from their apartment and had no place to go. I have a house that I bought in cash 5 years prior, so I let them move into it around a year ago. They offered to pay rent, but after the first 2 months, they said they were swamped with medical bills for my son and still paying their eldest daughter's hospital bills for childhood leukemia. Around that time, my son confessed that he had advanced liver cirrhosis. I tried to get his girlfriend to get him to stop drinking. She would yell at me and sit down and cry when my son was in the middle of vomiting black bile with his entire body so yellow. She'd ramble on about how she spent 20 years with him and cannot stop hoping that he'll pull through and they'd get married and be a happy family. I had to stop visiting after that, mostly because soon after their eldest hysterically called me and said her dad didn't recognize her anymore, and I realized his mind had gone. My son finally died of cirrhosis 2 months ago. His girlfriend started wailing in the hospital and saying a lot of mean things to me and about my son in general, saying she wasted her youth with him and who was going to love her now. The house was falling into disarray as his girlfriend did nothing but cook for her kids and stare aimlessly at job postings. She's cold to me every time I come in, and the kids would be as well. While I feel for her, I always thought my son moving in was a temporary situation, and that's what he agreed to as well. I was thinking of putting the house up for sale for a while now, and in the meantime, my girlfriend's twin brother needed a place to stay when he starts his MBA in the fall. He was a property manager in college, so we agreed to get in an optimal condition for buyers. When I had my lawyer send notice to her that I needed her to move out, she called and said that she could not believe I was being so cruel to a single mom. It's been a month, and when I gave her the chance to move again, she said to have some heart and hung up even though she can't pay rent. I had my lawyers file an eviction complaint and had her served a couple days ago. She called me screeching about how I was a bastard for trying to make room for my girlfriend's twin and sobbed, saying where would she go with 2 evictions on her record? Am I the a-hole? She's 45 years old and not my responsibility. Now for the top comments. This is a rough situation. And first, I am sorry for your loss. His girlfriend started wailing in the hospital and saying a lot of mean things to me and about my son in general, saying she wasted her youth with him and who was going to love her now. She chose to stay with your son for 20 years knowing he was an alcoholic. She knowingly put herself into this situation by not seeking help or leaving during that time. I think this really sucks, but mostly for your granddaughters. It doesn't seem like you even acknowledge them as part of your family, referring to them as her kids. They are your son's kids too. I'm going to go with everyone sucks here. It's horrible your son died and left your grandkids without a father. It sucks that his girlfriend is struggling to care for them and is being rude and obnoxious instead of being proactive. And it sucks that you, after writing your son off years ago, are not able to realize you have an opportunity to help your family still, because you don't acknowledge them because of issues their father had. Everyone sucks here seems like the most reasonable answer here. It sounds like the son and girlfriend were dodging responsibility, covering up and making excuses for a long time. Meanwhile, letting their kids grow up in a household with a severe alcoholic. I've seen what addicts can do to children, and I also know that you can't force an addict into treatment until they want to go, as one other commenter said. Still, I fault OP for being so callous and detached after his son passed, and for leaving the kids in such a situation. I mean, his oldest granddaughter called freaking out that her father couldn't even recognize her, and OP's response was to quit visiting. He was probably the most stable person in those kids' lives, and he just noped out when the situation got too bad. You're not just evicting his girlfriend, though. You're evicting his 3 children, your grandchildren. If you're fine making your grandkids homeless, I guess that's your choice, but it's a pretty damn harsh one. I had to stop visiting after that, mostly because soon after their eldest hysterically called me and said her dad didn't recognize her anymore, and I realized his mind had gone. Doesn't this mean you should have visited more to support your grandchildren? Your oldest grandkid has leukemia. How is she going to stay in treatment if she's homeless? You can legally do whatever you want, but I think you're the a-hole. 2 months? The ink isn't even dry on his death certificate, and you're kicking out his wife and children. I hope you don't like those kids, because I can guarantee that if you do this, they might never talk to you again. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that his own behavior is why our son doesn't show him physical affection, and I won't force him to? My husband and I have a 6-year-old son, Sam. Sam is super affectionate to me because I am super affectionate to him. For practically his whole life, we've had cuddle time every night. I tuck him in and give him hugs and kisses. I put him on the bus in the morning and kiss him goodbye. And when he doesn't feel good, I let him curl up with me on the couch and hold my hand. So it's not uncommon for him to randomly tell me he loves me, or come plant a kiss on my forehead while I'm just sitting down. This is just how we've always been with each other. By contrast, my husband isn't a very touchy-feely person, and therefore, our son doesn't show him the same affection. Don't get me wrong, my husband is a great father and Sam loves him. But he shows his love with tickles and wrestling, and Sam climbs all over him like a human jungle gym. That's their kind of love. Today, Sam wasn't feeling well, so I kept him home from school and we cuddled. When my husband came home, he kept trying to cuddle with Sam as well, but he only wanted me. This made my husband feel bad, understandably, and said that it looks like Sam loves me more than him. I told him that's not true at all, but that kids simulate the behavior that they experience. And since husband isn't affectionate most of the time, there are definitely some times where he is. Sam isn't affectionate back because he doesn't associate that behavior with his father. I told him that Sam shows him love when they goof off with each other. My husband said that I'm making him sound like he's a bad father, and that I should force Sam to give him hugs and kisses. But I refused, because I think Sam has the right to choose who he is physically affectionate with. He apparently vented to his mom and sister, who have both taken his side. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I suspect, based on your post, that I'm old enough to be that man's mother. So pass this on to him from me if you think it will help. Your son was not put on this earth to make you look good. You were put on this earth to raise him and care for him. If you screw up doing that, you own it. It's not a little boy's job to duct tape his daddy's best dad ever poster. Your son was not put on this earth to make you feel good. Taking care of your feelings is not his job. You are grown up. You don't like that you get what you give? Suck it up. You screwed up. The next time your son looks like he just needs company, offer him company. Just hanging out, doing stuff together. Accept it if he says no. Don't try to put your hurt feelings on him. If he falls down and skins his knee while he's with you, ask him if he wants a hug. Again, accept no. Do little, kind things for him like that, and he may grow to understand that dad also can be a source of mutual affection. Or you may have already set a pattern of your interactions for the rest of your lives. And if that is how it is, you live with it. And stop whining to your mommy about it. Good grief. Signed, somebody who knows firsthand what happens when grown adults try to make their little kids take care of their outed fifis. Not a hole. Forcing your kids to show that kind of affection when they don't want to can cause resentment towards the people forcing them to do so. He's still super little and unfiltered, meaning that they act on themselves instead of other people. He enjoys cuddling with mom more, so he doesn't want to cuddle with dad. And I'm sure the same thing goes for wrestling. You can't force your kid to show affection in a way that doesn't make them comfortable. I hope that made sense. Either way, not a hole. One of the worst things you can do as a parent, outside whole other level abuse, is to force a child to hug/kiss anyone. Not a hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.
Am I the a-hole for canceling the wedding because my fiancé made a secret deal with my dad? I, 28 female, was supposed to get married 2 months ago to my fiancé, 30 male. We had been together for 5 years. He proposed during a vacation in Santorini, and it felt like the most perfect moment of my life. I truly believed I had found my person. Planning the wedding was stressful but exciting. I come from a well-off family, and my dad had offered to pay for a large portion of it. He has always been a bit controlling, especially when it comes to money. He used to tell me growing up that I needed to protect myself financially, especially in relationships. I thought it was just fatherly advice. Sometimes it bordered on paranoia, but I chalked it up to him having seen some ugly divorces in his line of work. He's a lawyer. 2 weeks before the wedding, my dad and I were having lunch and going over some final guest list stuff when he said something that completely blindsided me. I don't remember his exact words, but it was something like, "At least now I know he's signed the prenup. Money well spent." I stopped eating and asked him what he meant, and he brushed it off at first, then said he had offered my fiancé a significant sum of money to sign a prenup he drafted months ago. Not a mutual prenup, not something we created together, something he wrote up himself behind my back, and my fiancé agreed to it. I went home that night and confronted my fiancé. At first, he looked like a deer in headlights, then he admitted it. Yes, my dad approached him with a prenup. Yes, he signed it. And yes, he accepted the money. His reasoning? He didn't want to stress me out. He said my dad was being intense, and he just wanted to keep the peace. He claimed he was always planning to tell me, eventually. He just didn't know how. The part that hurt the most wasn't even the prenup itself. Honestly, I understand the value of one, especially with the wealth imbalance between me and my fiancé. I would have been totally fine discussing it openly. What broke me was the secrecy. The fact that two of the most important men in my life made a deal about my future without me. The fact that money was exchanged like my marriage was some business arrangement. I felt like I was being handled, not respected. I called off the wedding the next day. It wasn't a dramatic scene. I just told him I couldn't go into a marriage with that kind of breach of trust hanging over us. He begged me to reconsider. He said it was a stupid mistake, that he did it for me, that he didn't want to start our life together with conflict. He said we could rip up the prenup, but the damage was done. He made a life-altering financial decision about our marriage without even consulting me, and the only reason I found out was because my dad accidentally let it slip. Since then, everyone has had an opinion. My mom thinks I overreacted and says I'm throwing away a great relationship over a technicality. My friends are split. Some say I dodged a bullet. Others think I'm being cold. My dad, who caused all this, is now acting like he was the victim and says he was just trying to protect me. My ex has been texting and calling nonstop, saying he still wants to make things right. I miss him. I still love him. But I can't shake the feeling that if he hid this from me before the wedding, what else would he be willing to hide in the future? So, am I the a-hole for calling the whole thing off? Now for the top comments. I don't think the dad wanted her to marry this guy. He conveniently let it slip? Now he is playing protective father? Yeah, dad let it slip that her boyfriend could be bought. Yay, dad. Not the a-hole. Yup. If dad can buy him now, what else is he trading for down the line? Loyalty ain't supposed to be negotiable. Trust your gut and don't ignore early signs. Marriage only magnifies that mess. Better a canceled wedding than a lifetime of second-guessing. Honestly, feels like a setup the more I think about it. My dad got what he wanted and gets to play the hero now. Interesting how both men claim they just wanted to protect you, but failed to see that they treated you as a child. Oh my God, thank you. I've been saying this to everyone in real life, but they keep acting like I'm dramatic for being mad about being excluded from my own marriage plans. The boyfriend was doomed to lose. The father would use the boyfriend's refusal to sign the agreement to tell his daughter that the fiancé was interested in the money. If he accepted the blackmail, the father would say the fiancé had accepted the money behind his daughter's back. The fiancé always lost. The father knows what a spoiled daughter he has, and knew that the one who would pay for his daughter's anger would always be the fiancé, because daddy's girl would never believe her father is Machiavellian. Congratulations, OP, you fell into daddy's trap. Next story. Am I the a-hole for agreeing to privately put an engagement ring on my sister because I helped buy it? I, 26 male, have been married for 2 years and have been with my wife for 5. My sister, 24 female, recently got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, and I was genuinely happy for her. A few days after the proposal, she confided in me that while she loved her fiancé and knew money was tight for both of them, she was a little disappointed that the engagement ring only cost $70. She didn't know how to bring it up to him without sounding ungrateful. Eventually, she, her fiancé, my wife, and I sat down together, and I offered to lend them some money to upgrade the ring. They accepted, bought a new one, and even did a redo of the proposal celebration. My sister was over the moon with it, and her fiancé was also grateful. My wife had no problem with me lending the money to my sister. She totally supported it. However, last week my sister called me late at night and said she had a kind of weird request. She asked if I could be the one to put the ring on her finger in a private setting. Nothing elaborate, just something symbolic. Her reasoning was that, since I technically helped buy the ring, she wanted that moment to be a representation of our close sibling bond. She also mentioned wanting to take some pictures of the moment. I'll admit I found the request odd, but my sister has always been a bit unconventional and sentimental in her own way. I brought it up with my wife, thinking she'd just find it quirky too, but she was shocked and upset. She said it was a highly inappropriate and intimate gesture that crossed a line. She especially took issue with the idea of it being just the two of us in a private setting, with pictures taken. She told me that it wasn't about the money anymore. The symbolism felt off to her, and she couldn't understand why my sister would even think to ask me something like that. I told my wife that this is just how my sister is, and it wasn't meant to be romantic or strange, just meaningful in her own way. But my wife doubled down and said it was crossing boundaries and made her extremely uncomfortable. I was really surprised that my wife was uncomfortable with it, but I also don't want to hurt my sister's feelings. She was legit crying on the call when she spoke to me about her request. Am I the a-hole for wanting to go through with the request, even though it would make my wife uncomfortable? I've never heard of this before, and honestly, it's pretty creepy. Why would you want to? It's honestly going to seem very weird when you guys post pics, and it's you proposing to your own sister. The only person putting a ring on her should be her fiancé. The engagement ring is a symbol of their commitment to their partner regardless of who bought the ring. You're the a-hole, and your sister sounds like someone that does weird stuff and says she's unconventional. Super cringe. Just to clarify, my sister isn't planning to post the photos anywhere or make it public. It's meant to be a private moment between us, something sentimental and symbolic to honor our sibling bond since I helped buy the ring. She wanted us to dress nicely and make it feel like a special occasion, just a meaningful memory shared between a brother and sister. I get that it's unconventional, but it's coming from a place of gratitude and closeness, not anything weird. Ew, your wife is correct. That is bizarre. Agreed. So what happens to the actual person she is marrying? Just too weird. You're the a-hole. I bet she didn't tell the fiancé she was asking her brother for an emotionally incestual private proposal. Exactly. A healthy way of acknowledging his support would be to make him a ring bearer at the wedding, but the only person who should be putting a ring on her finger is her soon-to-be husband. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex to leave after she broke up with me and expected to keep living with me rent-free? So the gist of it is, about 2 years ago, I let my girl and her best friend move in with me. The plan was they would both move out here, find a job, and I would handle most of the house bills, while they would buy stuff for the house and save up so we could move somewhere bigger. It started off rocky with them taking a while to get a job and contribute, but they did move out here, so I tried to be understanding. Well, not even 4 months into this, they both started to call out of work frequently, until the job barely put them on the schedule. And so, the little bit they were contributing stopped. My girl eventually got a new job, but her friend just quit hers, and my girl ended up supporting her and couldn't help with anything else. After a while, I got fed up with a friend and told her she needed to find a job, or a DoorDash or something, anything other than lay around the house all day. And she immediately moved in with some rich guy she met online. Cool, now it's just my girl and me, so I think we're about to lock in. Nope. After about 2 months, her new job fires her and she gets a job at Amazon, which she also quits. Then she gets a job at an HVAC company as a salesperson. Now we're almost caught up. So this whole time we are pretty close, and even during the hard times, I feel like we have each other's backs. Well, at the beginning of this month, my girl gets an offer for a new job paying a lot better, and out of the blue, she wants to break up. But here's the kicker. She wants to continue living with me until she gets her own better place, our original shared goal if you remember, while still not paying anything. I tried to put my feelings aside and told her I was fine with her staying, if she could actually help out until she left, which she said she would. Well, that turned into weeks of not only nothing, but also being ignored and other hurtful actions. So I finally had enough and told her to leave. The thing is, now I feel like an a-hole. Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. Not the a-hole, and almost patient to a fault. I don't think most people would entertain 2 years of mooching. Yeah, over the years, I've been real nice to folks when I was in my 20s and early 30s about helping them get back on their feet. Though I had rules. First month free. If you can't find a job in the first month, then you need to start looking for somewhere else to live. Because if you can't pay rent, which I always made very low, then you need to find a new place. Once you get a job, that first check is yours. The second check, though, goes towards rent. Depending when you got it and how much you can pay, I'll prorate it in a way. The third check goes to you getting stuff for yourself and work. Then fourth check should be for your bills. This gets them not only back on their feet, but used to paying bills on time and spreading it out. By the third month, the good ones were working and paying. The ones that weren't trying were gone. Not the a-hole. Wow, you have the patience of a saint. She is a user and a taker. She saw her friend land a rich guy, so she wants that too. Unfortunately, she also wants to continue using you till she does. Throw her out. She can go live with her friend. They're both a-holes. I'm not a saint. That's why I try to be understanding and patient. And ironically, I bet that's exactly what she did, since the guy gave the other girl a whole basement or something and a car. You left out how you met your girlfriend and built the relationship to the point of even being your girlfriend, let alone moving in with you. It sounds like you had a long-distance connection, never really knew the girl that well since you weren't geographically close until she moved in. She and her friend probably decided that you seemed nice enough for them to stay with and take advantage of the free rent until they can find a job or a sugar daddy. You need some boundaries. You kinda got it perfect. We dated for about 6 to 7 months before she moved in which time I probably seemed like I was doing better than I was, since I tried to pay for everything and they decided I could handle taking care of 2 extra people, I guess. I clocked her friend for what she was a long time ago, but you know what they say, rose-colored glasses and all. Now for the mini update. Honestly, you all don't even understand how much it helps hearing people tell me I'm not wrong for feeling wronged, even if it's strangers online. I did finally man up and tell her she needed to find somewhere to go by the time I got home from my 12-hour shift, which includes about 2 hours of commute time now, so she had about 14 hours. But even though she was supposedly working on moving out and had plenty of time to pack and leave without me even being there, I felt like a prick about it for a while now. Guess I need to grow up. I shouldn't be surprised by people like this at 30. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend he needs to propose this year or I'm leaving? My boyfriend and I have been together for 7 years. We met in college and started dating in our early 20s. Back then, neither of us was thinking too far ahead. Marriage felt like a someday kind of thing. We were growing together, figuring things out, and honestly just enjoying being with each other. But now we're 30, and I've started feeling like I'm the only one still thinking seriously about the future. Over the past 3 years, I've brought up marriage multiple times. At first, he said he wanted to wait until he finished graduate school. I understood that. Then it became about getting his career in order. He got a good job, but then it shifted again to wanting to travel more and enjoy our freedom before settling down. Every time I asked when he thought we'd take the next step, it was always some vague answer. Soon, when things settled down, after the next promotion. Last year, I thought he was finally going to do it. We went on this amazing vacation, and I genuinely believed he might propose. He didn't. When I brought it up a few weeks later, he laughed and said we had plenty of time and that marriage was just a formality anyway. I didn't find it funny. I felt like I had been waiting for something that clearly wasn't coming. So a month ago, I sat him down and told him plainly that I needed clarity. I said I didn't want to pressure him, but I also didn't want to waste more years hoping he'll change his mind. I told him I need to know that this is leading somewhere. I said if we aren't engaged by the end of this year, I'm done. I can't keep waiting while my life is on hold. He said I was giving him an ultimatum and that it felt manipulative. He told me proposals should come from love, not pressure. I get that. I really do. But I also feel like I've been incredibly patient. I've stood by him through job changes, his anxiety around money, his family issues. I've never once pressured him to propose on my timeline, but now it feels like he's just avoiding it completely, and I don't know if he ever really plans to marry me. I'm not trying to trap him or rush him into something he doesn't want. I just want to know if we're on the same page, or if I've been waiting for someone who doesn't actually want the same future as me. Some of my friends think I'm doing the right thing by drawing a line. Others think I'm being too aggressive, and that I should be grateful he's still committed even if he isn't proposing yet. I'm feeling torn. I don't want to leave, but I also don't want to keep dragging this out and looking back years from now wondering why I stayed. So, am I the a-hole for giving him a deadline to propose, or I walk? Proposals come from love. I'm sorry, but there's your answer. It's up there with what Prince Charles said when asked at the engagement announcement if they were in love, whatever love means. So yeah, dude's comfy, but not in love. Honey, he doesn't want to marry you, point blank, or he would. Move on and find your future husband. This happened to my godmother. She wasted 10 years hoping he'd propose. He eventually broke up with her because he didn't want to settle down yet. And then he moved on quick, proposed to the next girl within 3 years, and then had a baby. The next man my godmother dated wasted no time, loved her, knew what was important to her, proposed, and were married in 3 to 4 years, and they're on baby number 2. Unfortunately, some men just won't end it and will waste a woman's time just to not be alone. And they always marry the next girl, like they realize they hate being single and don't hesitate to marry the next rando they date when they want marriage. I've seen it happen a few times with acquaintances, and it never works out.